What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Rabid here, and today we get a first-hand look at the Jasminer X16-Q, and Q stands for quiet. So in this video, we are going to go through pretty much everything that we can, because allegedly this does everything that we wanted the X4s to do. This can mine Zil. This is supposed to work with Nicehash. This is supposed to do it all and do it all very, very efficiently. If at any time you are looking to purchase one of these Jasminer X16-Qs, you can use my link down in the description to Zil Mining and use that code rabidmining for 3% off. But I highly recommend nobody do that. You're probably like, what? So I would recommend you guys contact me directly through Discord DMs, link in the description, or I got Victoria's email down there. You will highly get discounts on shipping. It is a lot cheaper than ordering directly from the website, but make sure you do say Rabid sent you, or you might not get that good of a deal. So Zil Mining did send this miner out to me for review, and it is probably the most efficient miner you can possibly get on the market today for Ethash, and it's geared towards home miners because a Q is quiet. As for specs, this miner does come in with 8 gigabytes of memory, which will last for quite some time, especially if you're mining Octa.Space, which only has around 2 gigabytes. It is have a rated hash rate of around 1.9 gigahash, and it's supposed to do it at about 640 watts. It also has Wi-Fi support. Now let's jump into that dashboard and see what this thing can do. All right, so in order to get into your Jasminer, just like everything else, I just use my router, and the latest IP says Jasminer, and that's for me. You can use an IP reporter. Regardless, any way to find the Jasminer IP will work. Once you get in there, the default username and password is both root, and then once logged in, you will get your dashboard. The dashboard is looking different than what we're used to. This one has a lot of nice updates. It has a DAG loading progress here. The countdown timer, which is normal. We have the type X16Q, that's looking sweet. And we have hash rate. Hash rate, one's your average, one's your real time, and then your rejection rate, and then your different fan speed and so on. I do have my network part closed because it gives away my MAC address and everything else you guys could probably use to hack me. So I have that closed right now so you can't see it. If we go into the settings here, this is where we obviously set up our miner. I do see different actual settings here. We have a get work protocol as well as a stratum protocol. So I'm not really sure what the difference between each one is. So I'll see which one I can get working. On coin select, we have an ETC plus Zil. So yes, this is supposed to mine Zil as well. And it's also supposed to have Nicehash support, which we'll try and see if that works later on. But if we open it up, we can see ETC plus Zil, ETC, or just Ethash. Now this is based on the algorithm. Ethash is, that's your Octa.Space and every other coin that is situated, Ethereum, POW, ETF, and so on. Everything on the Ethash algorithm. Obviously, ETC is ETC hash, and then ETC plus Zil. So I don't see a plus Zil for Ethash, but I'm going to try it out and see if this works, because if we cannot get Zil Mining to work on the Ethash algorithm, then that's bad news. It would suck if all we had was ETC plus Zil. That'd be horrible times. And then for work mode, we have efficiency mode, balance mode, and performance mode. I will check out all of the power consumptions on all 3 modes to see how that works. So I'm going to set this up for K1 pool so that my rigs are separate from where I have everything else at on Crazy Pool, just so we can kind of track things. So it looks like there is a Jasminer port here. I'm just going to copy that over. We're going to go into our dashboard here, put that in for our URL. For our worker name here, I think I have this preset with the X16. Yes, I do. So that is this guy right here. That is just my K1 pool address, and then your worker name followed by. You don't need a password for the X16. Now I do want Ethash here. I do not want to get, because I am mining Octa.Space here, so I want Ethash. We're going performance mode, and I guess I'm just going to start with get work. So I'm going to submit that right here. Let it do its loading thing, and then we're going to jump into the main dashboard and close that out again because the network pops up. Now we can see we have a DAG loading progress. So we're going to wait for this to come up and kind of see how long it takes. In the previous X4 versions, the X41U and the X4Q, it took anywhere, depending what you're loading. ETC was around 28 minutes, and Ethash coins, when Ethereum was around, that was around 35 minutes. So let's see if this is faster. It's supposed to be quite a bit faster, actually. All right, so it just kicked up. We can see we're at 13 seconds now and timing. So I'm just going to fast forward through this and we'll see how long it takes to actually load this DAG file. Okay, so it looks like a little over 8 minutes to fully load this DAG. So that is a lot faster than 28 to 35 minutes, depending what you're mining. So it's about 3 or 4 times faster than the previous X4 version. So that's awesome. All right, so now let's kind of look at some Zil mining capabilities on the X16-Q. If we come into K1 pool, I have all my rigs separated so I can kind of keep track better. It does say that I did hit a Zil round on the last 2 rounds, actually. This is the second round, and it is looking like it did hit it. But I am using Crazy Pool here to actually track Zil rounds, and it is pretty accurate. Based on it, this is where all my Apollos and stuff currently is situated, and I'm running K1 pool on the X16 just to kind of keep it separate from everything else. Now, based on this, if I go into Octa, obviously we can see we're gaining some Octa. Most of this stuff here is from referrals and whatnot, and we have to subtract that to see our actual profits, which will come in a later video when we go through all the average hash rates on different things. But right now we can see we got a boost here because we're mining ourselves Octa now. If I go into Zil, I'm not really seeing that yet. We're up, load up, there we go. So we can see we're still way down here, and this is all, you know, referral type of stuff. So nothing's going on in terms of Zil, and with 2 Zil rounds have gone through, and it says, you know, we saw some shares there. So I don't really know what's going on. Maybe it can't mine Zil. Another thing to keep in mind is there's multiple ports. I am using currently right now the Jasminer port, which I don't know if it's geared towards, you know, the X4 versions or if it's geared with the new X16 in mind. I have no idea, but as we know, the Apollo port does preload those DAGs earlier to get that maximized profit on them. So I'm gonna try this port next now because I'm not really seeing anything on the Jasminer port. So I'm gonna switch to this and we'll see if we get anything. If not, then I'm gonna switch to the ETC plus Zil within the miner dashboard itself and see if we start gaining Zil that way. Okay, so we are here. I tried the Apollo port and it looks like a Zil round went by 16 minutes ago, following up on Crazy Pool. Next one is in 36 minutes, but we can see we did get a boost in Zil. So the last round looks like we did mine some Zil. So it looks like we have to use the Apollo port on these. Now, just looking into everything, I was going through the ports and everything, and it might be a little confusing, but if you actually look at it all, every port is exactly the same minus the Apollo port. So GPUs, you can see 6282, the Jasminer 6282, the Forest Miner, and the Jasminer, they're all 6282, where Apollo port here is the only one that's actually different. So in theory, there's only 2 ports to use, everything or Apollo. So it looks like the Apollo port though is working for Zil mining on the X16-Q. So that's awesome. If we do have a look at the dashboard here, we can see that I'm actually didn't notice any type of hash rate drops happening. So it is loading the DAG way faster than the previous X4 generation here, which usually took what, anywhere from 28 to 35 minutes or so. Here we're doing it in about 5 minutes or something, but you know, we are seeing not really any drops in between each one of those Zil rounds. And for our Zil mining, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't working on the original port. I actually went back to it here in the USA here. I went back to the Jasminer port, which is everything for GPUs, forest miners, and so on. And remember, everything is different minus the Apollo port. So I went back to the Jasminer port here, and it does look like, in fact, the past 2 Zil rounds has been smashing Zil rounds. And it looks like every round, it's anywhere from about 4.5 to around 5 Zil is what I have been seeing so far. So it looks like the Jasminer normal port is working as well. Maybe the website just wasn't updated or I was impatient or something, but now that it's all updated and I saw a few rounds go through with the latest port again, I can confirm that the Jasminer port on K1 is working. That means any pool, any port should work for the Jasminer X16. Next step on the list is the X16 is supposed to have Nicehash support. So I'm going to try to connect to it and see if we can get mining ourselves some Bitcoin through Nicehash rentals. Okay, so I did manage to get connected to Ethash at Nicehash. So that's awesome. Let's show you what I had to do because at first it was dead and it didn't want to work. So if you come into the Nicehash Stratum generator here, click on that, select your algorithm, go to put Ethash or something in, nothing pops up and only etc hash does. So if we actually go in here, we have to use Dagger Hashimoto. You guys are probably familiar with that. That's early on in Ethereum days. That's what was popping off all the time when it came to Ethereum. So this is actually your Ethash stratum that you have to use. Now, on top of that, you actually have to go into your Jasminer, go into your settings in your miner here. Before I was on Get Work for normal pools, I actually had to swap it over to Stratum V1. When it was on Get Work, it was not connecting and it was saying it was a dead stratum. So you do have to swap it to the Stratum V1 and then it will connect and begin mining to Nicehash. So it is going to take some time to ramp up. We're currently only doing about 160 mega hash, but over time we'll do that. In another video, I will go through average hash rates. I'm going to have to run it on everything, like Ethash here for 24 hours in high power mode, low power mode, balance mode. We're also going to have to do that with Zil Mining because your average hash rate will drop because it is leaving for mining Zil at times. So we're going to have to run through all these tests. Each test is going to take at least 24 hours. So it's going to take a good week and a half to fully test this machine. So an updated video will happen in the future. All right, so now it is time to take a look at some power consumptions as well as noise levels in decibels. So right now it is in performance mode, which would be the hottest. So the fans would be ramp up the most, as well as it would use the most amount of power as well. Let's start with the decibel readings. And just to get some ambient noise levels, I'm going to kind of shut up here and see what we're at. So as a baseline, let's sit around 46 or so. I'm going to bring this up closer and see what this thing sounds like right beside it. So this thing is pretty quiet, as you can see there. Whoa, we've got some focus issues going on. What's going on? Let's just do that for a second. There we go. So what's actually going on here is this thing does not want to focus whatsoever. We'll go up here. But what's happening is this thing is actually quieter than the X4Q, I believe. And it's also lighter. When I picked this thing up, it was way lighter than the X4Q when I first got that thing. And this thing, the X4Q, was very quiet as well. But this thing is actually sounding like it is quieter than that. So that's kind of crazy to think about. This has next to no noise coming out of it, which is perfect for all you home miners out there. Noise levels are next to zero. Now let's take a look at the power consumption. It's supposed to be about 630 to 50 watts, and we are pulling about 698 watts. So we're slightly under 700 watts here in performance mode. That's still extremely efficient compared to anything else on the market, but let's take a look at some other modes now. All right, so we are now in balance mode, and it looks like we are around 607 to 608 watts. All right, so we are now rocking efficiency mode, and it looks like we are pulling about 566 watts at the wall. All right, so that does wrap up this video. I will have an updated video once I figure out all the average hash rates. That is going to take quite some time to actually get figured out because I want to try it without Zil, with Zil, in efficiency mode, in performance mode, and balance mode. All of them will take at least 24 hours to test by themselves so we can get that average hash rate at the pool. As well, using Zil minus not using Zil, you'll get a little more hash rate when not mining Zil because you're not losing it to Zil rounds. And then we'll figure out, is it even worth mining Zil, because everyone's pumping Zil right now as being more profitable. So we're gonna have to try that out, run the numbers and see what happens, but we will get to the bottom of every single number within this miner in the next week and a half. So stay tuned for more. I will see you on the next one. Rabid out.